Should you be a micropublisher? This episode, a conversation with CJ Darlington.
Publishing was changing rapidly. So a lot of the ways that worked in the past for promoting, marketing, and just getting the word out about your novel maybe didn't work quite as well.
I'm Chris Well, and this is DIY Author. You're an author. Maybe you're taking the traditional route. Maybe you've chosen an independent path. Or maybe you want the best of both worlds. Wherever you want to go as a writer, DIY Author is here to help you on your journey with advice, encouragement, and practical tips. Because do it yourself doesn't have to mean do it alone. Welcome to DIY Author. I'm your host, Chris Well. Our guest this time is author and publisher CJ Darlington, a traditionally published author who went indie and launched her own imprint. In this interview, we talked to CJ about what led her to create Mountain View Books, the opportunities it creates for new authors, and her advice for writers who want to create their own micropublisher. Here's our conversation. Our guest today is CJ Darlington. She is an author. She has also recently launched a micropublisher by the name of Mountain View Books. Thank you for being with us today, CJ.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it, Chris.
Now, you are an author who runs a media site, titletrack.com. Free plug. You've been published by a traditional publisher. You've also independently published.
Yep.
And then now you and your partners have launched this micropublisher. Why don't you start out? Tell us a little bit about how you got started as an author.
How I got started as an author. Well, I actually got a really interesting start as an author in that I won a contest with my first novel, Thicker Than Blood. It was the Operation First Novel Contest published by the Christian Writers Guild. Jerry B. Jenkins is behind that company. So that gave me a huge leg up that I might not normally have had, and the prize included publication with a major publisher. And so I was able to kind of, it's very difficult as a first-time author to get noticed. So to be able to have that was a huge blessing. So that's how I got started. And luckily, my second book was also able to be published that way, or not through winning a contest, but the publisher, Tyndale House, they published my second novel as well. And so that's how I got my start. But at that time, publishing was changing rapidly. It was in 2008, 2009. Things were changing every day, practically. So a lot of the ways that worked in the past for promoting, marketing, and just getting the word out about your novel maybe didn't work quite as well. A lot of bookstores were going under, and they still are, unfortunately, but we found that the sales of my second book were not nearly the amount of sales for my first novel. Now, I'm not saying it's because I'm this great author and these novels should have sold or anything like that. I believe in the stories, but I think some of it was the economy as well. And so that's why with my third novel, Ties That Bind, which ties into the other novels, sorry, I can't be a little silly there, I decided to independently publish it because I was able to, through independently publishing, was able to get that novel straight into the hands of readers. And I didn't have to go through some of the channels that I had to go through with the first two novels. And that was just in May of last year that we did that third novel through the imprint Mountain View Books. And by publishing my novels first, we were able to experiment and to test out the waters, to figure out what works, what doesn't work, as far as how we produce our books. So I was basically the guinea pig of MountainViewBooks.com. And that's how we started, and now we're publishing my fourth novel as well as now moving into other authors.
Wow, I think you've answered about 5 of my questions here.
Oh, sorry.
So thank you for being with us today.
I'll elaborate.
Okay. What were the best things about your experiences from your traditional publishing?
Yeah. It was wonderful working with my publisher. There were no hard feelings whatsoever about not going with them for my third novel. I loved having a team behind me that was rooting for me, that knew the industry, that knew how to make my manuscript the best that it could be in editing and design and things like that, marketing, every aspect of it. It was wonderful to not have to worry about those things. As you know, as a brand new published author, I did not know a lot at all. Even after having been researching the industry, researching writing for many, many years, I knew some things, but to have those people who have so much experience, guide me along the path of publishing my first couple books was tremendous and a wonderful experience. They were able to show me the steps I needed to take to get the word out about my stories, to find the readers, and they let me try out different things as well sometimes. And so I learned through trial and error what worked, what didn't work. So just having that publishing team behind me was huge, and I loved that experience.
What did you like best about your experience in indie publishing?
I am really excited about being able to connect directly with the reader. I love the fact that, in fact, just the other day I was thinking about this. I was out doing something outside, actually, and I had the thought, any story that I have in my head that I want to pursue, I can write it and I can publish it and I can give it to readers, and I don't have to worry about the gatekeepers of the industry. While they're great and I know that they know a lot, I might be able to experiment with something that would not normally have made it past some of the people that it needs to make it past in marketing and sales and that sort of thing. And who knows, maybe this next novel idea that I have is going to be the next Harry Potter or whatever, and I get to experiment with that. And just having that freedom and being able to really just bring it right to the person that I want to bring it to, and that's the reader. I think that's just the coolest thing about being independently published. And being able to experiment too, ways to get my book into the hands of those people and see firsthand what works, what doesn't work. Now there are certainly challenges, but I just love that about being able to connect with readers.
Now, going back to your earlier monologue, I'm trying to get a handle on the timeline, because you were at a traditional publisher,
yeah,
and then you independently published, and the way you described it, it sounds like it wasn't you independently published and then later started Mountain View, but that actually those things went together. Is that what's going on? You actually, when you independently published, you were already starting to put a company together?
Oh, okay, I see what you're asking. Right. So 2009 was when my first novel was published traditionally. Then my second novel came out, I believe, in 2010. And then I was writing my third novel as we were promoting the second. I'm kind of thinking out loud here. The Mountain View Books name is actually something that my family, we have had a company where we buy and sell used and rare books as our family's business under the name Mountain View Books. And so we already had this LLC in place. So then we were able to really seamlessly also add on to it the publishing arm of the company. And so I saw it as a great opportunity to release my own book under this imprint, rather than just releasing it under my name. I like the idea of having a publisher and being able to do everything through our company. And so that's how we launched it originally. But very early on, I had in the back of my head, I would love to be able to, and all of us did, it's our family business to publish these books. I had it in the back of my mind that we would really like to be able to publish other authors as well. Because I have seen so many authors out there that are very talented that are not getting published by some of the bigger publishers for whatever reason. And also authors who just would like to have a little more control over what they're producing. And so it was right around the same time that I published my book that we thought about the idea of publishing other authors. So we wanted to experiment with mine first, though, just to get everything, all the nitty-gritty details figured out. Does that make sense?
It does. Although now you've answered several other questions that I would have asked.
I'm trying to do that. Sorry.
You're being so efficient. Because now I'm trying to figure out how to navigate my way through the questions here. And I guess we'll just let the people listening at home sort through for themselves what parts of this will make sense. So you're going to independently publish.
Yeah.
You have an imprint. How much of what you did when you created what is now Mountain View is you built it with the intention of, oh, this is a thing that I know other people need, versus I'm building it for myself, and now that I've built it for myself, oh, other people can also use it.
Right. It's kind of a little bit of both. I think that the thing that has been unique for me is having had the experience of being traditionally published, I bring something to the table. I'm able to bring the experience of an author, and you know, what I want as an author is probably going to be similar for another author. So I was able to bring that experience. Then I was also able to bring to the table some experiences that I've had with the marketing aspect as well, like what works, what doesn't work, and I think really all along it's been a combination where what works for what I'm doing is going to work, I believe, for other authors as well. So they kind of go hand in hand in some ways. Our goal is always to have quality be the number one thing with our books. And that's something I wanted as an author, and I believe it's also something other authors want, is that you know, you look at a book that we publish and you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell that it was done by an independent publisher, that you would look at it and you'd be just about the story, because that's what's important, I think, that it's not obvious that this came from a smaller publisher, that it could have come from any publisher out there, because we really want that quality to be at the forefront. And so that's something that worked for my books, but also works for other books and other authors.
Now, to the author listening, who's thinking, okay, I could hire an editor, I could hire a designer, etc., what are the kinds of things that you bring that I can't just hire out, that I would be in a better, you know, what can you offer that I can't just do for myself, right, as a publisher?
Well, we were talking earlier about the team that was behind me when I was traditionally published, and that was something that I really appreciated, not having to worry about a lot of the smaller details. And so I think with a lot of authors today, whether they're traditionally published, whether they've done some things themselves, the beauty of getting a smaller or indie publisher behind you is there are a couple things. And number one, we offer really great royalty rates. We split the profits with an author 50-50 on ebook and paperback sales. And also we do produce paperback. Some independent publishers don't even do that anymore. And I still think that there's a market for paperback, because there's nothing like holding a book in your hands. Though I love my Kindle too. So you know, you got to have both. And we bring a lot of experience to the table with the marketing that we've done, and the having the connections with others in the industry and other authors, and talking up the books. That's a big thing that some newer authors, for example, really don't have the connections that we have with the industry. And a big thing is, yes, you could hire an editor. Yes, you could hire a cover designer. You could hire someone to typeset your book. You could do all those things. But there are a lot of headaches involved in some of those things, and learning all the ins and outs of all there are so many different things just in designing a cover that, yeah, you could slap one together if you wanted to. Not to say that authors do that all the time, but I was very surprised at the things that we had to learn to really get the quality that we're aiming for. And I think that authors would like to not have to worry about those sort of things. They'd like to be able to just sit down, write their book, and be able to have input in all those things, like be able to say, oh, I really would love to have this kind of image on the cover, or, you know, can we make this, you know, let's market it to this group of people. And so you get that with an independent publisher. You get the line directly to all of that, but you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to learn all the technical details. So I think that's something we bring, that we take care of all that stuff for you as an author, and you can really concentrate on writing the best book that you can write.
Looking at the website, this is an inspirational publisher, right? Is that
yes.
The intention?
That's the intention, because that's the market that I know best and that our team knows best. We, right now, publish inspirational fiction. However, it doesn't have to be blatant. We will publish. We're interested in all genres of inspirational fiction, but whereas some books you read are very out there in their the spiritual points that they have, whereas others are more considered a clean read. So we go to all sides of the spectrum, where we sometimes will publish something that you could give to your conservative grandma and you would not have to worry at all. Whereas we also are going to publish some books that are just about having a fun adventure story, or a suspense novel that has a really great mystery, and it doesn't don't feel like you've been rolling around in the gutter after you read it. So inspirational fiction for us is a very broad label. We're willing to go in either direction. My books tend to be in the middle. We are really open to a lot of different things, and it's going to be really fun to see the different avenues that we go with this publisher.
Looking at the books that you've got on the website, you have a brand new book, Jupiter Wins, which is a dystopian science fiction YA novel.
Yeah.
And then also you have just launched the first author who is not you on the publisher, and then I see there's a second author name. So you are just now at the place. This is not just you. This is now you and other authors.
Exactly.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about James Pence is the first. He writes, it looks like, inspirational suspense.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how Mountain View Books and James started working together.
Yeah, and James Pence, he's a wonderful author, and I love his books, and that's where it started. I read some of his books that he'd published many years ago. In fact, his latest novel that we're publishing is called Unseen. It was originally published under the title Blind Sight by a different publisher many years ago, never released an ebook. And he's updated it entirely, all the technology and everything like that. But I remember reading that novel years ago, and it's not often that I read a book and I still think about it years later. But I still sometimes would find myself thinking about it and thinking about the characters and some of the scenes that happened at the end. So we contacted him and asked him if he had any other books available or anything else that he was looking to publish that maybe hadn't found a home yet. And he told us that he had the rights back to two of his novels. That I read his first novel is Unseen, coming out with us, but then we also have a novel called Mercy Killer that's coming out. It's a medical thriller. Both books fantastic. He was very interested in working with us, and we were very interested in working with him, and it was very seamless how we ended up connecting, and we're really excited about Unseen, and it's got some great people talking about it right now, so we're excited about it. And also like I said, Mercy Killer's coming out probably in June, so that's very soon.
Do you have a target number of authors in mind for Mountain View?
I see us publishing. We're publishing several new authors this year. I think that we're probably going to end up with at least 6 titles this year alone, and then as we go, probably we'll be doing at least 6 or 10 titles a year. So some of those will be multiple titles by authors, but as far as the authors, I mean, we're in talks with several different people besides the ones you saw on the website. So we're really excited. At least 6 books a year is what we're shooting for.
Is this invitation only, or are you looking for submissions?
We are always looking for submissions. We have a page on our website that describes what we're looking for and how we'd like it to be submitted to us, but always looking for great stories. That's what the name of the game is, great stories.
And so people who want to look for submissions, that would be at mountainviewbooks.com. I thought I'd mention that before we forget.
Thanks.
Sure. What is your advice for authors trying to figure out the best publishing option for them?
I think what the number one thing authors have to decide is how much time they want to put into it, how much they're willing to learn about all the technical aspects of creating a book. I know some authors are really into that, and they don't have any trouble learning the aspects of cover design and typesetting and ebook formatting and all of that. In fact, that excites them. But then you have other authors that their mind is already spinning at the idea of doing that themselves. And so that that's not going to work for them. So you have to look at, what you're up for doing. And for some authors, you'll know right away, hey, you know what? I'm going to do all this myself, and it's going to be fun. Whereas another author is going to be like, no, please, don't make me learn this stuff. And so just sit down, ask yourself what you're willing to do. And also you have to think about how much it's going to cost too, because it's not cheap to hire an editor to get a really good cover design in on all the different aspects of creating a book. So you have to decide what your budget is as well. And that's one thing that if you do work with us, you don't have to worry about any of the costs, because just like with a traditional publisher, there are no upfront fees or anything like that. We're not a vanity press. It's all the way a traditional publisher works. The only difference is we don't offer an advance, but we do offer really, really great, I think at least, royalty percentages. We split everything 50-50. So that's the two things you got to think about. You got to think about how much you're willing to spend and how much you're willing to invest in learning about the different aspects of creating a book.
And then what advice would you have for someone who wants to create their own micropublisher?
Well, I think you got to go in with your eyes open. You got to really research all the different aspects of it. You got to research, and there are really some great places online that are going to help you with that. If you just do some searching, it does require going in, knowing what's at stake, knowing that it's going to cost you a little bit to start things. That we had to invest in a bunch of different things, but in the long run, it ends up being worth it because we're really excited about where things are going. You got to think about what your end goal is and ask yourself, why you're doing it. Why? Because, I guess when I say go in eyes open, you're probably not going to make $1 million in the first year that you're beginning something like that. But there are I know several different people who are starting micropublishers, and what it comes down to for them, I think, is love of story, love of great books, and wanting to get those out to the masses. So if you have that in your heart, it could be a great thing for you. But there's a lot of different technical things to keep in mind, and also know that everything is changing all the time, and be willing to move with the times. Because if you get stuck in a rut in this day and age, you're going to really get covered with mud and run over, basically.
All right. And then one more time, authors can check out Mountain View Books at mountainviewbooks.com.
Correct.
And then if they want to check out you as an author, that's cjdarlington.com. Is that correct?
Correct. The one thing also that's new with our website is you're going to be able to buy the paperback books directly from us as well, besides the online retailers that we include links for. So we're excited about that aspect too.
And looking at the site, you've got there's a link for submissions. You describe your publishing model, the list of books. So yeah, there's all the information. Anyone who's interested in Mountain View needs to check out the website. Yeah,
and you can also sign up for our mailing list. That'll be the first. You'll be some of the first people to know about it. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter and all that fun stuff. So it's all there at mountainviewbooks.com.
Great. Well, thank you very much, CJ.
Thanks. Thank you very much. I appreciate being here.
You've been listening to DIY Author Radio. Please visit us online at DIYauthor.com and sign up for our email newsletter. If you enjoyed this show, please consider subscribing and leaving a review. Until next time, keep writing, and remember, do it yourself doesn't have to mean do it alone.